I started playing guitar when I was about 12 years old in middle school. I'm the son of two guitar players, classical guitarists. My father was John Marlow, and my mother, Carol. They met with the same guitar teacher. They both had the same teacher. But I didn't really have interest in playing guitar until I was 12. And what got me interested was in middle school, I was playing marching drums, and I was into music, so I was watching MTV at the time and trying to watch what the drummers were doing. And I got really interested in what the guitar players were doing in the bands that I saw on MTV. And then I saw a classmate who was my age, and he was outside playing a Bon Jovi song or something, and all the girls came standing around him. And I thought, wow, man, that's it. I gotta switch to guitar. So I went home that day and pulled one of my dad's guitars off the wall that he had hung up and just started trying to figure out how to play, one note at a time, trying to play a melody on the first string and figuring out a chord or whatever. And I never put the guitar down ever since that day, pretty much. I wanted to play rock guitar, even though I had all these classical guitars around. So I had on my wish list for Christmas an electric guitar. It looked like Van Halen's guitar, cheap Sears electric. So that was my first guitar that was mine. I got as a Christmas gift. It was like $100 thing. And that's when I really started to learn. But I was learning rock music. I really wanted to get the sound of rock guitar with the pick. And then my father had a guitar student who did play rock, and he taught me how to put distortion on my amplifier and things like that, so I could really start sounding like the real thing. So my real focus was rock guitar from about age 12 until 14 or 15, I'd say. And I did a guitar summer camp, and for the summer camp, it was required that you play in the summer between 8th and 9th grade, something like that. It was required that we bring an acoustic guitar. It could have been a steel string acoustic or a nylon string classical. And I told my dad, I said, I need a classical guitar, give me your guitar, and his guitar was a Herman Hauser too, and he was like, I'm not gonna give you that to go to summer class. So, sorry.
You stupid child.
Yeah. No, so I needed a classical guitar for the summer camp, and I told my father I needed to take a guitar, and if he had one I could take. And he didn't want to lend me any of his guitars for the class. So we went to the music store, and he picked out a cheap Japanese knockoff of a Ramirez. I remember him playing it in the store for like an hour, and he really loved this guitar. It was cheap, because it was used. I think it was a Nagoya, and he gave me that guitar to use for the summer camp, and then I wanted to take guitar in class, like middle school. I had to audition to do these things because the other kids were a little ahead of me because I was doing drums. I was doing marching drums, so I had to audition. I didn't have a guitar, so my dad picked up this cheap guitar for me, and so I started really getting into the nylon string sound at that point, even though I was playing with a guitar pick. And in the summer camp that I took, where I brought my guitar with me, the Japanese Ramirez copy, our teacher was his name was Michael Delala, and he was doing this summer camp. And he had very eclectic tastes. And so what he did was really interesting. He asked all the students to bring in one song that they like. We had to copy it on a cassette and bring it in. And then we all listened to all the music all the students liked in the class. And then he played a record for us, which was Passion, Grace, and Fire, with Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, and Paco de Lucia. And when I heard that sound with the nylon string guitar played that way with the fast picking, I was just really blown away. I love that recording. And I was still playing with the pick, but I went home after that summer class and asked my dad if he knew about Paco de Lucia. That's what my people were calling him because they didn't know how to say Paco de Lucia. So, and my father said he did know who he was, but he didn't have any recordings of it. But he did have a recording of another flamenco guitarist named Sabicas. So he showed me his record, Sabicas, and that was the first time I really heard flamenco music. I got so much into guitar with the electric guitar stuff. I was very attracted to some of the more virtuoso players, such as Yngwie Malmsteen, and I got the instructional video of Paul Gilbert, and his band at the time was called Racer X, and I was trying to learn these songs by ear, and it was very difficult. And getting this video from Paul Gilbert just opened up this whole new door for me about how to pick fast and play fast scales and things like that. And I was just constantly with my guitar, and I had to, try to do well in school at the same time. So I used to play a little tennis and do martial arts. I quit that stuff because I realized how much time I needed to spend on the guitar to get this fast picking and things down with the metronome. And I was spending so much time with that in terms of social life, girlfriend, I had a date with the girlfriend, and after the movie, she said, "Hey, let's go over to my house." And I said, "No, I got to get back to my guitar, get back to my fast picking stuff." So all through high school, maybe, until I finally got a rock band together, and then I started to, look at girls again as something interesting. The most important thing, number one, is rhythm. Being able to play in rhythm with a metronome, and then of course with other people, and really develop something that we talk about feel, and these things are sometimes elusive to learn or teach, but they're really important and fundamental in order to really advance. So number one is rhythm. And I would recommend for people learning flamenco to start with the basic, like metronome clicking, and learn how to tap your foot, keep a beat, and find some sort of groove. And you might have come into flamenco not as a beginner guitarist, but maybe from another genre, let's say jazz or classical music or rock even. And all these other genres they all have rhythmic basis. Classical music, you learn how to read meter, and you learned about different time signatures. In jazz, you learn about swing and how to play the blues and follow a chart and things like that. And even in rock, you got to learn how to play with a drummer. When this drummer starts playing on the 2 and 4, you have to keep the beat. And a lot of people, they discover flamenco even if they've been doing that kind of music, any of those genres, and then they suddenly forget all about that basic keeping a beat and really feeling the rhythm, because flamenco seems superficially extremely complex and almost daunting to get involved with something like a 12 count compas or whatever, and they forget all about just the basic rhythm, the basic groove, and internalizing a feeling of phrasing and things like that, and making it natural. And that really is fundamental before you can advance. If you're learning music that's complicated, flamenco, and you're trying to count the compas all the time and trying to see how it fits with a loop of authentically recorded flamenco percussion, and you're kind of hit and miss, touch and go on it, you have to strip it back down to just a basic beat and feeling that you might have had with another music genre or any music that you like to listen to. You can tap your foot, Flamenco is really no different than that. The first time I went to Spain to learn guitar, that's the thing I really noticed, was how people tap their foot and clap their hands, and I was like, wow, everything is just the feeling, and everybody's feeling it kind of the same way, and it's not really any different than when I played my rock band. And so kind of overthinking it, it makes it more difficult than it needs to be. So work on the rhythm first. When I teach, I tend to, well, everybody knows most flamenco guitarists are into composing. It's a really wonderful genre that has song forms. It allows all these really wide open canvases to create, our own things. When it comes to teaching, I think it's important that students get a kind of a fundamental basis with kind of simple things. Sometimes they're traditional or old. Sometimes they're not old at all. They're modern been composed by modern players, but they're very fundamental in terms of what you need to know about a song form before you begin composing your own stuff. So I have students sometimes come to me to want to learn my compositions, and if they want to learn a piece like, say, Soleá or Bulerías, I first need to make sure they understand very well the form of Soleá and Bulería fundamentally, with the compás, the rhythm, the structure, how it fits together. And if they don't already know some traditional falsetas, I kind of want to start there and then get them up to speed before we introduce my music, let's say. So I'm a big advocate for teaching old flamenco or traditional flamenco and developing a strong foundation for each student. Everybody can get frustrated at all levels, so from a beginner level struggling with just learning how to change chords and keep the rhythm, to an advanced player that is, has kind of trained very difficult music with mistakes, and then they can't get the mistakes, they can't get rid of these little mistakes that they want to fix. And it's all kind of the same. We need to do two things. We have to keep learning and growing, we have to be inspired. So that's number one. We got to have a goal to advance towards. And that inspiration can come from a lot of sources. Usually it's, watching the masters perform, or sometimes it can be just being around other artists that are doing the genre. For example, I get very inspired by percussionists that are doing very advanced things, and that inspire me as a guitar player, even though it's not guitar music. But once you have the inspiration to do something, then you have to focus. And the focusing thing is really important for fixing these problems. You have to figure out what is the problem. Let's say it's an advanced piece and you keep making the same error in the same spot. It's usually because you're working on all this other music, all these other parts, and then you make these one or two errors and they just keep coming into that same section. So what I think is really important to do is to isolate these problems and loop them in a very small circular way, and they don't have to be in the rhythm of the song, but again, going back to the fundamental grooving, you just have to be able to play this phrase, this music, chord, progression, whatever it is, and in a very simple, repetitive manner until it's natural. Once it's natural and it becomes like you're just speaking to somebody or trying to tell them something, you don't have to think about each individual word when you're trying to, tell somebody something. You can just say the sentence and it comes out naturally. And that's what you want the music to be like a sentence that's natural. I'm Ricardo Marlow. After all these years, I'm still on my musical journey. When you're ready to begin yours, I'll be here to help you every step of the way.